Hello, everybody, and welcome to another inspiring conversation with me, Claire Westwood. I'm the Chief Creative Maverick, and I'm here to ignite luminaries all around the world to live their purpose and share their light as the unique person and spirit that they are. And today I have the wonderful Sarah here with me on the conversation. And I always start these interviews by talking about how we met. And Sarah and I met probably 2 years ago now, I reckon, because it was before I left my day job. And we were in the same kind of holistic networking meeting here in Bristol in the UK. And yeah, it was a really lovely group that we were part of. And we've crossed over at a lot of events lately because there's a big kind of groundswell of beautiful, conscious business communities, quite often led by women, growing in the city that we're in. So our paths cross a lot more often now. And it's lovely to have Sarah here. She is recovering from laryngitis, so it might be a little bit croaky, but we're gonna persevere and see how we get on. So hi Sarah, thanks for joining me today.
Hello, thank you for having me, and apologies now if my voice goes a bit funny.
So yeah, so you might find it extra sexy to listen to Sarah, or you might just get a bit irritated by the croaking. So if she runs out of voice, we'll cut this a bit short. But otherwise, we're hoping to talk to her about life and yeah, how it went from one thing to another. So yeah, do you just want to talk a little bit about what you do now, and then we'll go back to how that all started.
Sure. And actually, interestingly, Claire, even what I do now is evolving. So it's a very interesting
Same.
time for us to catch up.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, so right now I am a kinesiologist and I work with people, whether they have physical ailments or whether they have sort of like they feel stuck and they want to move forward. So we can find out where those blocks are within their nervous systems and body and help them to progress. And I'm also a coach and mentor for founders and female leaders in the corporate world.
Fantastic. And so I know a bit about your story and how it kind of evolved, but let's go back to kind of childhood and school and that kind of thing. And how would you describe yourself as a child?
Very inquisitive, very curious, very talkative, and asked a lot of questions.
Yeah, yeah. And did you thrive at school? Was it somewhere that you did well in traditional terms, or you felt like you got on with people well, or how was your experience as a
I
at school?
actually loved school. I
Yeah.
did do well. I am fairly academic, so I didn't struggle with school. I absolutely loved languages, I think because I love people and I love communicating. So I think the fact that I fell in love with languages when I got to secondary school was no surprise, really.
Oh,
And I also
okay.
love travel. So that
Yeah.
kind of helped me to go and see a bit of the world when I was only sort of, 12 and then teens up doing all
Right.
the foreign exchanges and things.
Okay. Amazing. And so what sort of places did you visit?
So mostly France and Spain because I was doing French and Spanish,
Okay.
but it just ignited that kind of, I think that kind of wow. I just love that, in France they live like this, and in Spain they live like this, and like that those
Yeah.
cultural differences and
Yeah.
the language difference, the food difference, how families are socially different. I just love, like, I just love learning about new people and ways and how people see the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And experiencing it firsthand because you're actually
Yeah,
there. So it's
yeah,
not so the languages might have been topics that you studied at school, but then you were experiencing the whole
yes,
experience of being
I
in
loved that
France
bit.
and how
Yeah,
French people lived, etc.
yes.
Fantastic. And so what did you do after school?
So after school, I followed the typical path that most people do. I did my A levels at
Yeah.
languages, and then
Yeah.
I went to university and did a French and Spanish degree. And as part of that, I had a year living in Spain, and then I
Right.
spent my summer in France au pairing. So again, that was just, I absolutely loved it. I just threw
Yeah.
myself into it, and um, I just loved speaking Spanish. So it was an amazing time. And then came back, did my final year, and then thought, oh, okay, it's a
Yeah.
bit boring now. Now
Yeah.
what do I
What
do?
do I do now? What's life all about?
Oh God, now I've got to like do adulting. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Cornwall,
Right.
Very, very lucky to grow up in Cornwall, right near the beach. Had a very free kind of childhood. My parents are very trusting sort of parenting. So my brother and I were very free to express ourselves and go and find out what was right for us and what wasn't. They weren't controlling at all. So we were very lucky from that
Yeah.
respect. Very supportive and very freedom giving, I would
Yeah.
say. So I guess that's why, just skipping ahead a little bit, I've just had a thought, is probably why the whole corporate thing felt a little bit trapping, because I didn't have that as an upbringing.
Yeah.
And suddenly I'm in this world of work. But let's go back. So I went back to Cornwall, did a contract for British Telecom, and thought, oh, I need to spread my wings.
Mm.
This feels, I absolutely adore Cornwall, like it has a piece of
Mm.
my soul and it always will. But I need to go to London. I
Mm.
need to, like, the girl needs to get out of the countryside and go to London. It was like this
Mm.
thing I had to do.
Yeah.
So I went to London and joined a few agencies and eventually had a job offer for a company doing new business sales for a recruitment training company. I mean, how close to languages is that?
Mm.
Absolutely poles apart.
Yeah. I was
Well,
wondering, did you
yeah.
use your languages?
Yeah. So, well, funnily enough, I did go for a few interviews where languages were used, but the way I would have had to use them just did not resonate with me. I
Right.
remember one being an interview for a oil company that was based in South America, and I
Right.
just thought, I can't, I don't I don't really believe in dredging up the earth. I don't really want to talk oil.
Yeah.
So yes, I'd
Yeah.
love
That's
to use
not
my
what you did
Spanish.
your studying
It's
for.
kind of,
It's
that's
like,
not what I
yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think I was into it enough to be a translator, an
Yeah.
interpreter. I didn't really want to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I then needed to find a job because I'm in London, aren't I? And I'm
Yeah.
living my best life. So I have to just find a
Something's
job.
got to fund it.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not going back to Cornwall. I'm staying here. So I need some money. So yeah, so I did that. But then the path began, this meandering kind of think you've got it mapped out, but you haven't really.
Yeah.
So from there, I ended up one of the companies that I was working with to sell this recruitment training to said to me, Sarah, why don't you come and be a recruitment consultant with us? And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. So off I went and became a recruitment consultant. And then fast forward another sort of couple of years, and I met my now husband,
Yeah.
who was living in Bristol. I was in London, he was here. And it was like, oh, who's going to move? Am I going to move? Is he going to move? So within about, I think about 8, 9 weeks, I was in Bristol. And
Wow.
everyone was like, what are you doing? You're giving up your job. And I'm like, yeah, but gut says yes. So let's
Yeah.
just see what happens. What's
Yeah.
the worst that can happen? If it goes Pete Tong, then I'll just find another job or go back to London or yeah, whatever. So
Yeah.
the fact I was in recruitment was really, really helpful because for anybody who's worked in recruitment or knows about the recruitment kind of landscape, it's quite the turnover is quite high, and therefore there tend to be always jobs. So I did walk into a job in Bristol within only 2 weeks of being here,
Right.
and I was there for a couple of years
Yeah.
until a client there said to me, Sarah, why don't you come and do this HR contract? And I went, oh, yeah, that sounds good. So off I went, did an HR contract.
So you have a pattern of working for places and then other people going, oh, we want you to come over here.
Yes, I do. There's a little bit of a pattern of, come and look
Really
at this
nice.
shiny thing, Sarah. I think you'd like it. And I go, oh, I
Yeah.
actually would like it. It's time for a change.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Nice to be wanted.
Yeah. So, and then that started my then 22, 23 year HR career. So
Okay.
from that contract, I I'd already done a master's in HR at
Yeah.
Bristol Business School, so UE. And during that time, I was on a work placement in Rolls-Royce. Not a work place, sorry, a dissertation placement. I had to do my dissertation on a project. So I did it at Rolls-Royce.
Yeah.
And while I was at this company that had kind of headhunted me from recruitment, the person that I'd worked for at Rolls-Royce then phoned me. See, this is a pattern, Claire. And she said, Sarah, come back to Rolls-Royce. So I did. and I was
You're in
there for
great
many, many
demand.
years. I know there is, I hadn't realized this actually till I was now thinking about it.
There
There
we
we go.
go.
So I was there for about 6 years until I got made redundant. And then from there, I found a job at Bristol Airport. I was head of HR at Bristol Airport.
Oh, okay.
I was there for a number of years until I got the feeling that there's more out there than this. This is a little bit, you've done so many cycles now of the same thing.
Mm.
You know, when just like your energy or maybe like your soul or whatever is going, you're feeling a bit trapped now. You need to come on, spread your wings. You could
I
be,
totally do.
you know, you could be here
Yeah.
for your entire career,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
not what you're meant to do. So
Yeah, same thing happened with me in nursing. It's like I loved it, and then after a while I'm like, I just, yeah, feel like I've, it's pleasant enough and I work with lovely
yeah,
people, and but there's something bigger or different or just new, or yeah,
something
just
like a
feeling like
pull.
there's a, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So I didn't have a job when I left. It was like, it was that I'd handed my notice in a year before I left, and they persuaded me to stay.
Do you know that
And
same thing happened with me in nursing as well?
mm,
My manager's like, "Do you have an idea of what you're going to do?" And I went, "Nope, I'm just going to go." She went, "Well, maybe not. I'll give you your resignation back." And then, yeah, in the end, I decided I definitely did want to go. And then I gave them 6 months notice, which I didn't have to, but because I was speaking to somebody yesterday about this at the networking event, because I gave myself 6 months notice. Like, right, in 6 months' time, I'm going. And
yeah,
everybody knew and I knew. So it was like, okay,
yeah. So I
let's
was on
work
a
towards it.
3 month
Consciously
notice.
uncoupling, as it would be called now.
Exactly. And because I knew I was on a 3 month notice period anyway,
Yeah,
I wasn't sort of worried about,
yeah,
I still didn't have anything to go to when I left,
yeah,
but I wasn't worried about that because I kind of felt like, that inner knowing of sort of like, you don't need to know the next step right now. You just need to stop that
yeah,
so that you can have some downtime to
yeah,
actually listen in and just work out what's coming next. So
yeah. And sometimes that's, this is the difficult thing I think about transformation and life. I was talking to a woman yesterday who's in a job and was wanting to do something else. And it's almost like, the the jumping out is so difficult, but actually that's where the space is created.
definitely.
And then you have to
Yeah.
change your patterns and your routines and what you're doing because you've left it
Yeah.
behind. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's terrifying, but at the same time, it's liberating because you go,
Yeah.
right, I could go back there and get my job back or a similar job back. But actually, once you're out, and you sometimes need a sort of healing, grieving, integration period. And then it's sort of like, okay, you can breathe and really feel into. And I don't think it's so much, what am I doing next? It's like, who am I?
Yeah.
That's where it all starts. As you and I are both coaches. Like when we're working with anybody, they can get very fixated on what am I doing and how do I do it and what's all that. And it's like, let's go back to who are you
Yeah.
now? Like that's really
Exactly.
the vital question. Yeah,
Exactly. And needed to give myself time to just shake off all of the things that I didn't enjoy and that didn't resonate with me.
yeah,
The politics of somewhere like that
yeah,
and some of the decisions that were being made just did not feel like they had integrity to me.
yeah,
And when you're heading up a people function, you can't, I can't work in an environment where what's happening potentially goes against my values because I pride myself on integrity. And
mm,
that's why I was good at my job when I was
mm,
employed because I was, I was what you would expect an HR person to be
yeah,
in their hopefully in their truest best form. Um,
yeah,
but at the same time, that really took its toll on me emotionally
yeah,
because I was having to sometimes do things that I didn't necessarily want to do and
yeah,
having to be the spokesperson when it wasn't my decision. So
yeah,
that was tough. And I needed the time to kind of go, right, let's just lay all that to bed, let the healing
mm,
take place,
mm,
just kind of integrate the lessons, leave the stuff that you don't need,
mm.
and then work out what you want to do. And what I
Yeah, and
actually
did you
realized,
did you kind of consciously do a sort of self-audit at that point? Here's
definitely,
who I am, here's what I loved about it, here's what didn't work about it. Because I think, these tools are so great. So if anybody's listening or watching to this and they've never really done a kind of whatever we could call self-inquiry, self-audit, like, what have I loved about any workplaces I've had or anything I've done, for work or hobbies, or what's really resonated with me, and what really is kind of feels like a conflict inside, or it's just boring, or it doesn't interest me, or it's not my skills. And these self audits are so precious. Like when I was thinking of leaving nursing, I was like, but I've been a nurse like my whole life, since I was 18, in different areas. And so there was real massive value in me going, so nursing is the role that I do, and it is an identity, and it's a well-respected career, job, vocation, whatever, but it's a box that I'm in. It's a role that I'm playing. And so what are my skills, what are my loves, what do I like outside of it, what is it about that role of being a nurse that really works for me, that I feel that I'm using all my skills and my gifts, and where do I find flow, and where do I feel like my heart's expanding, and all these kind of things. So yeah, these are really great. It's really great to have the time and space to do that.
Definitely. And I expect, like you, Claire, I spent a lot of my later life, like probably, well, from sort of maybe sort of 30s onwards,
Yeah,
I've done a lot of self-inquiry, a lot of
totally.
self-development, personal
Yeah,
development. And I think that's probably what makes us good coaches and mentors, because
yeah,
we walk the talk.
yeah,
We don't just tell people to do it. We've actually done it, and we know the benefit of it, and we know how to do it. So it's, you have to know yourself, because if you don't, how can you even begin to create flow in your life?
yeah,
And you're not going to know yourself unless you do the self-inquiry and the audits that you talk about. We've got to
yeah,
take the time to do that. Um, I missed out a vital part there, Claire, which was 4 years before I left,
yeah.
I'd been diagnosed with an autoimmune condition.
Okay,
And
yeah,
that was a bit of a shock, if I'm honest, because I'm not somebody that's ever been to the doctors. Haven't even been now with my throat. Why do I need to go? I know what it is. It's a virus, it's fine. So it was very strange to be told, hey, there's something wrong with your body. Um,
right,
but because prior to that, I'd trained in Reiki, I'd from a very young age believed in like esoteric things, and believed that we're very much part of something far bigger than ourselves. And this
right,
this this physical thing is not what it's
yeah.
all about.
Was
It's
that from like when you were a child?
yeah,
Yeah,
I had an imaginary
that's what
friend.
Cornwall will do for you.
Exactly. We got the witches down
And
there.
I mean that in the most loving way.
Absolutely, so true. But there's something very magical and
Yeah.
Celtic and
And living by the
uh
sea as well, I think there's something really like when I lived
yeah,
by the sea, in Bournemouth as a teen, but mostly in the last few years, when I'd been through various, awakenings and healing processes, like the whole energy and the whole expansive something about being by the sea is totally different.
it is. And I think for me, I think couple that with being so connected with a Celtic land that has got
Right.
so much history,
Yeah.
dragon energy, all of it's incredible. I've got goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah.
I've just grown up as that being my norm. Like,
Yeah.
my auntie, my great auntie was a medium in a spiritualist church. My grandmother's
Amazing.
psychic. I
Yeah.
know myself and my cousins and my aunties, the females. I know, we've all got those gifts, and I don't think it's any surprise that our heritage is Cornwall. I do
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
that's that's
Yeah.
weaved into our lineage,
And
basically.
actually, now you're mentioning it, my grandmother's ancestors are Cornish. My mum's maiden name was Cornish.
Ah,
Well, it was Steele, but her mother's was Cornish. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think that all plays in to why I was not your typical corporate person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because of all of that, I think that helped me in my HR role, and it helped me in the coaching that I did within the HR role, because I do have buckets of empathy.
Yeah.
Like I do understand that the people coming to work are not just, physical flesh suits walking in an office. They have stories, they have traumas, they have
Yes.
emotions, they have baggage,
Yeah.
and they've got stuff going on that they're not necessarily going to want to bring in. They think they're masking it, but they're not. So
Yeah.
that enabled me to kind of unpick layers of things with people that you know, that helped them kind of work with that whilst being at work. So that was helpful. But why did I get to that? Because I was saying about the autoimmune diagnosis.
Yes. Yeah.
And that in itself was kind of a wake-up call to sort of say, okay, what's going on, body? Because this didn't just happen, and it's not something you can just take pills for, despite what the GP said. But why did this happen? And because of my inquisitive nature, like you can't just tell me to take pills. That's just not going to work.
Yeah.
I want to know, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Why did it happen? What
Yeah.
can I do to help myself? Because there is
Yeah.
this self-ownership over it, you know. And so that led me on a very, very windy, deep, several rabbit holes of autoimmunity and how to heal it. And one of the things I found was kinesiology. So 2 years after I left Bristol Airport, I then started training as a kinesiologist, whilst also doing HR contracting, because I thought I cannot be permanent employed again in HR, but I can do contracts because I can go in, I can do consultancy work, and I can go out and not have to deal with the politics and the emotions and la la la.
Yeah.
I can stay removed, go in, do a really good job, and then go, thanks very much. I'm on to my next one now.
Yeah. Beautiful. And so for people who don't know, like what is kinesiology? Can you explain it to the average layperson who may be listening or watching?
Yeah, and I'll explain it in terms of how it helped me in the very, very beginning.
Yeah,
Because
beautiful.
I wanted answers, as I just alluded to, and I wasn't going to accept pills. Like, okay, if I need to go on them eventually, fine, but let's just unpack how this happened.
Yeah.
And what kinesiology does is it enables you to effectively talk to your body, because we use muscle testing like a chiropractor and some osteopaths use. And it has a very it has a history steeped in Chinese medicine, so traditional Chinese medicine, and your Western kind of medicine. So we've got the chiropractic background, we've got muscles, we've got bones, we've got, you know, the physical body, but then we've got Eastern medicine, which is very much about energy medicine, meridians, auras, chakras, you know, all of these things that also make the human. So you bring them together and you have kinesiology. And also in traditional Chinese medicine, they're very much aware that emotions are linked to organs, are linked to systems in the body. And so if you have, like, let's say the lung meridian that's out of balance, lung emotions are going to be sadness, grief, guilt. So we can quickly go down pathways as to what's really at the root cause of this. So it enabled me through muscle testing to get biofeedback from my body to say, what's out of balance here and how might autoimmunity have started. And it was just a case really of building my body back up and bringing it back to a state of balance, or homeostasis as people call it scientifically. Because the body is always trying to stay in balance, and it will correct itself all the time. Like, even as you and I are sat here talking, that's what it's doing. But of course, when it gets too far out of balance, that's when we get symptoms and we get diagnoses, etc. So kinesiology can help with physical symptoms, emotional traumas, blocks in terms of your goals and your future. There's nothing really it can't help, because it's just helping to reconnect the human with the body and the mind, to reconnect them together. And
so like a kind of recalibration of your natural system.
And an uncovering of, like, we know the conscious mind, we know the monkey mind and the ego, but this is what's happening in the subconscious, what's below the iceberg, or what's below the sea, sorry, of the iceberg. This is the tip, what's happening underneath, because that's where we get our healing.
And I think there's so much more evidence about this now. You know, the book that seems to have kind of, everybody recommended it to me over a 12-month period, even though it's been around, you know, The Body Keeps the Score. And we're getting more and more aware that, you know, we store emotions and we store trauma, like, in our physicality, in our energy systems. Whereas, you know, 10 years ago, that might have been quite a left field thing. And now it's kind of like, no, if we stuff it down, we literally are stuffing it somewhere, and it will create some kind of effect. Or, you know, long-term stress, you know, feeling in the wrong place at the wrong time, or any kind of, you know, long-term kind of lifestyle or job or housing or money or, you know, relationship stuff it, and it's all going to create something, some kind of effect somewhere.
Yeah, and they say, like, if what the mind can't express, the body will hold on to. The body will suppress it, Sorry, other
Yeah,
way around. The body will express what the mind suppresses. So we think, oh, I put that to the back of my mind. I don't really think about that anymore. And then my clients will say this, and I'll say, okay, let's just ask the body. No,
yeah,
body clearly is holding on to this, and it was 7 years ago. So
yeah,
you think you've moved forward, but you'll probably only move forward at maybe like 85% if you're lucky. The other
yeah,
15 is stuck back there. So it's about regulating the nervous system to just let the nervous system let it go, because we'll hold on to it until we sit with it and we give it time and we give it space.
yeah,
Um, just needs to
yeah.
be witnessed a lot of the time, and we're very good at stuffing down, moving on.
Yeah, and I think I was talking to somebody else in one of these conversations as well, and saying, a lot of these kind of somatic body-based things, it's like they don't insist that you go back and work out where it came from necessarily, or what the root cause is. It's like you're treating whatever's stored in there, and you actually don't need to go back and revisit it or talk about it or try and explain it, because you might not even know.
Hmm.
But it's having the tools to be able to free that energy up or free it out.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And we've got a technique within kinesiology called past trauma recall. So we can, if something is somebody sort of stuck on something, we
Yeah,
can ask the body, is this a past trauma? And if the body says yes, and we might get some more information about it, but the person will say, I don't even know what happened when I was 3. So
yeah,
it doesn't matter, because
yeah,
your body knows it did. So we now
yeah,
can help the body release it, and
yes,
you can basically lie there and just
yes,
let the nervous system deal with it. We don't need to bring it all up and trawl through it all and relive that traumatic experience. We don't need to do that. But we do need to ask the body, what is it? Where is it? Right, got it. Now we'll help you release it. That's it. We don't need the minutiae of the detail.
yeah, totally. I'm just remembering like a one day event that I went to with a kind of coach who was very, very psychic, very intuitive, very whatever. At one point, there was 4 of us in this beautiful space in this really old hotel in Frome. It was like magical. And we were all in this meditation, and she was asking us different questions, and I answered a question. Um, and she was like, I don't think that's it, Claire. I think it's something different, because I was answering from my head, and then I was really breathing into my body. And then I was like, oh, there's something in there. And the next thing I knew, I was just sobbing. And I cried for about 10 minutes, I think. And part of me was so embarrassed, because I was like, all these people are sat here. Well, the 3 other people are sat here watching me cry. But I just couldn't stop. And I have no idea what it was. I was in early recovery from addiction at that point. So it could have been all sorts of things. But I literally cried for about 10 minutes. And then I sort of came round, and I'm getting tingles now telling you. And the people in the room were just like, what? Because like I woke up a different person, and I still have no idea what that was. But this woman
Yeah,
just got me to tap it. Like I felt so safe in that space that I
yeah, that's
tapped into
amazing.
something that needed to come, and it came out. I was crying for 10 minutes, and it was
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
that's brilliant. Really cathartic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible. And I was
And
like, I'm really sorry, everybody. And they were like, oh my God, look in the mirror. You're like a different person. You're like
isn't it
10 minutes, you've gone back 10 years younger, sort of thing.
Yeah,
It's
so obviously,
amazing.
like, your body knew it just needed to release something, and crying's just to
Yeah.
release, isn't it?
Yeah. It needed to have the right guidance and the right, safe
The
space. And
right
it was
space.
ready to pop
Yeah,
totally.
that's really
And it's
lovely.
another of those things, we're going to talk about intuition a bit as well. Where I went to the event for one reason. Do you know what I mean? My
Yes, I
logical mind
do.
going, let's tell her it's for this, and that will get her
Yes,
in the door. And it's
that'll
not
get
about
them.
that at all.
Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot, doesn't it? Like, you're pulled to
All the
something
time.
and you think, "Oh, yeah, I know what this is," and then you get something completely different out of it.
Yeah, and you
So,
go,
yeah.
oh, that's why my brain told me to go, because it needs a logical reason for doing it, but actually something much deeper was guiding me.
Yeah,
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 totally.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Fantastic. So yeah, so you trained as a kinesiologist, and you left the HR world, and yeah, so what then?
So I
And what
left.
now?
Well, it was funny because I decided that my last contract would be, um, it was ending in February 2020.
Oh my
So
God. Okay.
I was like, yeah, well, that's fine. That's fine. Because I need to tell the universe that I'm all in on this. Like, I want
Yeah.
my own business. I'd said for years, I just want to be my own boss. I just want
Yeah.
to do my own thing.
Yeah.
Because I felt like, and I know you'll understand this, in all of the roles that I'd done, permanent roles, I loved them. Like, there wasn't a, I absolutely hate my job. I never had that. I'm very
Yeah.
lucky that I never had that.
Yeah.
It was more the inner churning and calling of, you're here for more than this.
Yes.
This is not what you're here for. You have not even touched the surface of your purpose yet.
Yeah.
And I know we talk about,
I actually got that as a clairaudient message when one day when I was a ward sister on a children's ward. It's the first one I can remember. Like, I was always intuitive, and being a nurse, being intuitive is really helpful, having that switched
yes,
on. But I remember walking up and down the ward one day. And again, I'm really enjoying my job. Worked in pediatrics. You know, I'd been there a while. I knew lots of different people. You know, it was a really lovely, and this, like, literally heard the words, "There's more for you than this, Claire." And I was like, okay. And that was 30 years ago. And I was like, any clues?
yeah.
I mean,
And the next
literally
step
nothing
is,
else. But it was like it planted a seed, and it's really interesting to go, you know, you literally almost said the very same words. And it's kind of like, yeah, we can feel that, but also, you know, some people who are clairaudient like myself, you know, we get words or phrases just popping in. And I'm sort of, well, I don't know where that came from, and it was not a conscious thought of mine. So I'll just note it down, and, you know,
yeah,
sometimes I go and
yeah,
do a bit of research around it, or I get a word that I don't really understand, like the word luminary that popped in a few years ago, and I'm
yes,
like, I like the sound of that word, but I don't really know what it is. And then you can go and look it up, and yeah,
yeah,
kind of following these little magical sort of happenings. But yeah, feeling even, and I think this is the thing, it's kind of, life can be pretty good, but we still know that there's more, or that there's
yeah,
different, or some of it doesn't really gel 100%. So it's
yeah,
kind of listening, tuning into ourselves.
yeah. And I think I just always felt like, well, when I was having those moments of that kind of inner knowing, because I would say, like, my probably strongest clair is claircognizance. I just know things.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how, I just know.
Yeah, totally.
I do get words as well, but it's mostly that, and it was that, and I know that, I've known that for years, so I knew what this was.
Yeah.
It felt like it would have been a wasted life if I didn't do something to dramatically change what I was doing.
Yeah. Yes. So for anybody who's listening or watching and doesn't know this, so clairaudient is kind of, it's kind of a psychic, intuitive sense. So there's various clairs. They have the suffix clair at the beginning, prefix clair at the beginning. And you know, there's clairvoyance, which a lot of people have heard of, where you kind of might see a vision, or, you know, imagine something, but you're not really imagining it with your brain. It's something that you think, you know, is maybe a premonition of the future, or something that's maybe going to happen. And there's clairaudience, which is we hear words or phrases, like almost like a voice in our head, but it's not really a, I mean, it can be almost like a voice, but there's words and sentences crop up. And the claircognizance one is really interesting, because that was certainly so alive in me as a nurse. And it's a, for me, it's like, well, we've just talked about it. We've talked about tingles. We get tingles in different parts of our bodies. And I
Yeah,
started having that a lot when I started coaching people. And I was like, what is happening in my shoulder blade? Like, really interesting. But I also get this real, like, it is a real gut solar plexus kind of, either excitement or kind of dread, or just a pull, like an energetic pull, or something that yeah, it's like, I don't think anyone's ever told me or taught me that, but I just know it to be true.
yeah,
You know,
that's
that thing
fine.
that we just know without anybody
Yeah,
telling us, that sort of
yeah,
inner knowing, and that's what it is. So if anybody can resonate with this, then I give you full permission to experiment with your magical
yeah.
tools.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it? That the claircognizance is a kind of, it's a definitely deep within the body thing.
Yeah.
It's certainly nowhere near the head. It's like really deep. I'd say
Yeah.
mine is probably even sacral, but
Yeah.
it's just a real, like, definite a gut thing.
Yeah.
And I get the clairaudience a lot when I work with clients, and I
Yeah.
get the tingles a lot when I work with clients. So,
Yeah.
which I think is the cognizance as well. So if somebody says, you know, that they're going through emotions, whatever, and then they'll say something, and I'll get the tingles,
Yeah.
and I'll say that's the one. that's where we need to go.
Totally. I'm like yeah, and I say this, I'm getting it now. It's really, my body's going, oh, I'm enjoying this conversation.
Mine is too.
Yeah, and I started getting this with clients like years and years ago when I coached on the phone, because that's what we did in the olden days before we had screens and stuff. But and I used to get these tingles, and I used to think, gosh, I wonder what's going on. And then I realized, and I'd say it to them, like, my body's just said this. I think that's a really deep truth. And a lot of the time, or I'd reflect it back to them, they would just start crying.
Yeah.
Because I'd heard it, my body had heard it.
Yeah.
And I'd gone, oh, we really need, like, you don't, it's almost like we need to stop right there, like you just said. We don't need to continue on this conversation, because that's the piece.
That's
like, my body's telling me that this is the piece. And then quite often they would end up crying, because that's that healing, just
exactly.
my legs are going crazy. Yeah, it's so fascinating.
And I get what I call drop-ins, which is the clairaudience. When I'm working with people, if they're at a point where they're in a quiet state and we're not talking, so if we're talking, I get the tingles. If they're not talking, I'll then just sometimes get full sentences, or sometimes get a word.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, okay, so this has just popped in for me.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave it here, take it if it resonates. If it doesn't, just leave it. I think it's a message for you, kind of thing. And then they'll go, yeah, that makes complete sense. That's it. Sometimes I then get people shaking because the nervous system's like, yeah, that's it,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
no, I'm the same, because when I trained as a coach, it was very much the masculine model. You've got the situation now, you've got the goal, you take action, you never give people advice, you don't tell people what you think, you don't. And then after a while, my body's going crazy and I'm getting all these intuitive hits, and I'm going, I don't think I'm serving people by not saying this stuff.
No, absolutely.
But I was trained not to do it under any circumstances. So I was kind of in this kind of inner conflict, like you were describing in your job, but I was in it as a coach. And so I started going, okay, what if I just ask their permission? Is it okay if I share what's come through for me? And again, I'm not attached to whether you do anything with it or not. I'd make it very clear, this is not advice. I'm not attached to whether you do anything with it or not. But quite often it would really deepen everything that we were talking about. Yeah. And so that's when I just learned to trust it. And I'm like, well, my coaching school said this, but actually my body is saying that, and my clients are getting massive benefit from me sharing the kind of messages and tingles and the downloads or whatever that I'm receiving. So
and that, I think it wouldn't matter whether you were doing coaching or kinesiology or what you were doing. It's the fact that it's you doing it. You are part of the process, aren't you? You can give it the label, whatever it is, but actually it's being in that room with you, or being on that call with you, or with me, or do you know what I mean? We're just bringing what we bring to it.
Totally. And the more I've looked at it, and it's really interesting, because obviously I was a nurse for a long time, and I trained in the medical system, and now I'm really into all this stuff we can learn about now, about the human biofield and the energy flows, and the fact that our biofield extends above, below, outside of us, and our hearts, this electromagnetic thing. And I'm like, we are just, and I've read about this for a long time, but it's kind of things that I kind of know, and then they sort of land in my body in a different way, and it's like, oh, we really are walking antennae. And when we're open to these messages, that's when life becomes really magical and interesting, because Claire, am not in charge of a lot of what I do. Like I was just saying before we started the call, I got this massive, I set up the YouTube page before Christmas, and I've had my podcast pottering along for a bit and not really done much with it. And, on the 5th of January, the Monday, I was doing my yoga stretching, and my body went, today, start reaching out to people. And I'm like, can I finish my stretches first, though? I'll have my breakfast first and then I'll do it. But it was like a bang, today, start reaching out. And there was absolutely no doubt. And I was like, right, I'm going to follow that, because there's absolutely no doubt in my system that today's the day that I'm getting on with it.
No, I've had that as well. When you procrastinate for so long, and then you wake up and it's like, actually, it feels completely different. The energy's different. So it's like, okay, we're doing the thing. We're finally doing the thing.
So we could go, we're procrastinating, we should be doing it. And there's this amazing woman that I follow online, who's a real spiritual guide, and very practical, and runs a lot of courses and stuff. But she's very much like, wait until it's a choiceless choice. Like, you can't not do it. So you know, I've talked about this in other conversations, that's so difficult for us as humans, especially if we like doing stuff quickly and we're full of energy. Like waiting for the it's now can be quite
Yeah.
a long wait sometimes.
Yeah.
But when it happens, it's like, oh, there's no doubt that actually everything that I needed to happen has happened, and now it's happening, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of learning to sort of go, right, I've got the seed of that, and
yeah,
I just need to pop it over there to germinate
yeah, and
and try not to look at it.
trusting it's going to shout at you
Trust,
at some point.
trust, and then when it's ready, it'll now be like you can see the little shoots and off you
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's really interesting. Brilliant. Okay. So yeah, so we're getting towards the end of our conversation now. So is there anything else that you want to share about, you know, oh yeah, let's talk about how you're evolving now. Because we're kind
Oh,
of, one of the
okay.
reasons I reconnected with you on Instagram a little while ago is like, I love your posts. They're almost like exactly what I'm feeling right now.
Yes.
So let's just talk about kind of so however long we've been on this journey, and this is what I love about it, we're constantly being pulled to like the next level, the next level, the next level.
Yeah, definitely. There's always like, I think the journey for me is learning, and the journey is continually sort of leveling up and
Yeah,
evolving.
yeah,
And I think that just suits every part of my being, because I don't believe
yeah.
we're here to just do an HR job and then retire. Like
No, yeah,
that's not, I didn't sign up for that. I know I didn't sign up for that. I
yeah.
got the hits to know that I didn't.
Yeah,
And I honestly think that autoimmune diagnosis was actually part of bringing me back on the right path, because it was a knock over the head that I needed.
yeah, yeah,
Do you
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? So
Oh, I
evolving
do.
now,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I needed something, because
We get
I'm
little
sure,
nudges and bigger nudges and
yeah,
massive nudges, and then
they're
yeah,
going, she's
we can
getting
get
a bit comfortable here. We need
yeah.
to get her back on where she's
Yeah,
supposed
we've
to be
got to do
going.
something really dramatic to get her attention because
Yeah.
she's not paying attention to the
Exactly.
woo.
Exactly. And that's part of it. It's like I didn't listen to, they say if you don't listen to the whispers, you'll have to listen to the screams. I
Yeah,
didn't listen to the whispers. I knew they were
yeah,
there. But I was
yeah,
like, well, looking around me, everybody else seems to be doing fine, because as women, we're very good at comparing, aren't we, to other people, when
yeah,
really we shouldn't do that. Everything we need is already in here.
yeah,
But now what's happening is, so kinesiology will forever be the absolute roots and soul of what I do, because
yeah,
I 100% believe in it. I'm so passionate about the fact that humans are whole beings. We are
mm,
not just physical, we're emotional, electrical, we are biochemical, and we are
yeah,
obviously physical with the bones.
yeah,
But I've got to the point where I realized that perhaps from a kinesiology perspective, I was drawing people to me who were only focusing on the physical. And
right,
I know there's so much more to it than that. So what I'm
yeah,
doing now is I've created a one-to-one mentoring program for 12 weeks to work with founders, leaders, anybody really who is a self-leader, but has got a little bit stuck and wants some help, because I want to bring all of my lived experience,
yeah,
all of my HR stuff, coaching, mentoring, whatever label you want to put onto it.
yeah,
I basically will be their wing woman to help them
yeah,
get through this next block using kinesiology techniques, using my HR background. So I'm evolving around that. The program's the first step. I'm going through a whole rebranding exercise at the moment, because I feel like Restore Wellness has been amazing, but it's not necessarily the container that's going to hold where I am now and where I'm going. So it needs to
yes,
evolve
yeah,
to move with me.
yeah,
Um, Lead from within on the screen there. That's this new 12-week program, but the name of the company will be changing, as will the logo, the colors, the branding, because I
yeah,
feel like it's that nudge again to say you can't fully step into where you're going unless you bring that stuff up to where you are now. So it's just
yeah.
evolving and updating. So more to
Yeah,
be revealed on that, but it's in progress.
yeah, that sounds amazing. And that's so similar to me because I'm like, yeah, I still love the essence of coaching, but I don't really want to call myself a coach because again, it's like, yeah, at the moment I've gone back to doing improv. So I know that's very much about embodiment and expressing through your body. And it's like, okay, so how can I bring, yeah, coaching, nursing, my life experience, my addiction and recovery journey, my sense of humor, my love of intuitive art and theatre and put it all together. And I think a lot of people are on this journey where we've learnt different modalities, and what we're finding is like a natural pull to putting them all together in some
Yeah,
way.
I
I remember
definitely feel
having
that.
this woman, a mentor, years and years ago when I was first getting into coaching, and she used to do this whole thing like, she did this 2-day VIP thing where I think the tagline was something like, "We create a job that doesn't exist yet because it's basically built around you and who you are." And I'm like, I think that's where a lot of us are going now,
Yeah, I agree. It's
because we
kind of
live in a
trying to
world
bring,
where that's possible.
yeah, and it's bringing almost like coherence to everything that you've done and bringing
Yeah,
all the bits that, I mean, I'm very much aware that at this stage now, I'm in perimenopause.
yeah,
I have got a lot of wisdom that I need to start sharing with people that are younger than me, but people that
totally.
are even just a little bit behind me,
Yeah,
there's so much wisdom we can share, and I feel like as women, that's almost like our right and our duty at this age of our lives
yeah,
to say, look, let's put our arms around you because we've been there. We
yeah,
can show you the way from our lived experience. So you can get all the qualifications under the sun, and I know you and I have both got them for our coaching and obviously for my kinesiology, but
yeah,
ultimately people don't come to us for our qualifications. They come to
yeah,
us because of who we are. And
yeah,
if our energy resonates, then we are the right person to help. Just like we
yeah,
will have chosen people to mentor and coach us.
yeah,
It's we all need to help each other, don't we, essentially?
yeah,
We're all here to,
totally. And the interesting thing about perimenopause and menopause, that's being talked about in ways that's never been talked about before. In the last 5 years, when quite a lot of you know women on TV maybe who were sort of have been in the public eye since they were 20 are suddenly going, oh my God, and they've got a big platform and a very vocal platform, which is great. And yeah, there's real neuroscience to show that one of the reasons we have trouble with brain fog and mood swings and changes and all of this stuff is because our brains are literally rewiring themselves so that we do actually become wiser as we
yeah,
go through this process. And so, yeah, it's fascinating to go, yeah, we have more wisdom, but slightly less energy. So, how do we balance those two things out and and almost like, yeah, working out what works for me right now,
yeah,
at whatever stage of life we're in, whether you've got, small kids or whether you're, empty nester or whether you've got a part-time job or whether you've gone through, some kind of chronic illness and you're still recovering. It's like the ability to be able to adapt around our circumstances instead of thinking we all have to be doing a certain thing in a certain way. Is
yeah,
like, I think that's the freedom that we've got to kind of explore that. And
yeah,
we are, I acknowledge we are in a very privileged position to be able to do that, but making the most of the privilege that we've got almost.
yeah, definitely. And not to I think we can talk about privilege, and I do agree that we are in a privileged position, but I think there are many people in a similar privileged position who will not take these steps. So I think
Totally.
it's where privilege also has to go hand in hand with courage and
Yeah.
resilience
Yeah.
and determination, because
Yeah.
you can't just be privileged and do these things. You have to be privileged and do those things as well.
Yes.
You can't.
It helps to have supportive circumstances and to
Yes,
live in a country that's relatively peaceful for sure.
absolutely.
But yes, it still takes an immense
It's
amount of
still, yeah,
courage
it's not like,
to
oh,
actually
you're privileged,
create
so you
it.
can just do it. That's not
No.
how it is. So I think
Yeah.
we have to be careful. When you hear all the stuff about we're privileged, it's not that easy. You know,
No.
it absolutely. And I don't mean to diminish the privilege. I hope I'm not coming across like that, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying let's just take a moment to realize how much effort and energy and resilience it takes to actually step outside of what is the conventional norm, because
Yeah.
privileged or not, you not everybody's going to do that.
No. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that has been a spectacular conversation, Sarah. Thank you so much. These conversations go so quickly. So just let people know how they can find out about what you're offering at the moment, and I'll put all the links, the live links to Sarah's stuff, in the notes for the podcast and also the YouTube channel. But just let people know where they can find you.
Sure. So I've got a website which is www.clairaudience.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn as just Sarah Thompson. You'll find me on there. And Instagram, Sarah Thompson Restore Wellness, and Facebook as well. If you put my name in, it will come up with Restore Wellness. So yeah.
Beautiful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah. It's been lovely to talk to you, and activate all our tingles, which has
Yeah,
been
tingling
fun
now.
to have that live on the
Yeah.
conversation.
Oh,
And
thank you, Claire. It's been my
oh, you're
pleasure. What a
welcome.
lovely chat we've had.
Thank you. And yeah, I'll be sharing another conversation very soon on my podcast and YouTube channel. Bye bye.